more resources, visit rym.org.
One, two, 3.
The Local Youth Worker is a daily podcast that's centered on 5 questions each week. Ranging from the practical to the professional, we're looking for answers to the questions you're asking. Whether you're in full-time, part-time, or even volunteer youth ministry, this podcast is for you.
Hey everybody, we're back talking more with Michael Hall. We've been talking about YLT all this week, and Michael, as I ended yesterday, I was saying, we've been hyping this conference and giving a lot of information, and it is exciting to think about the gifted people that will be there, and maybe, I guess, swinging to maybe a little more negative since we've just kind of been excited, hyping all this stuff up and talking about the positives. We know reality that there are people who just say, I cannot take a week off to come to something like this. I've got too much to do. I've got a lot on my plate. If I step away from the ministry for an entire week, that's just going to, I can't leave it in anyone's hands. I'm not able to do that. So let's say you have somebody coming up to you and says that. What would you say to them? What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, the first thing I would say to someone who's, wrestling with the reality of not being able to get away or not thinking they can get away is just affirm it and understand it. Sometimes, because I've been there, I totally get it. I feel that way about going on vacation, I'm like, there's so much going on. How can I possibly truly unplug? And then I would just start to ask some questions. There's certain situations where literally the leadership of their church won't allow them to go, which again is not a good thing, not a healthy thing, because, well, I don't want to get off on that bandwagon or down on that rabbit trail. But I just want to affirm that. And I want to also affirm that, there are a number of guys out there who would love to come. They've got small children. And it's a key time in the life of their marriage and family to figure out what it means to parent with their spouse. And when I say guys, FYI to the world, that's a general term for me. Guys to me may mean guys and girls, or it may mean guys. So I apologize for the confusion. But it's there's all kinds of family reasons why it can be a challenge because we know often youth workers are out of town at retreats and conferences and stuff, and adding another week can sometimes feel like it's not doable. Wouldn't even want to ask, as their spouse to be like, "What? You're leaving again?" Those kind of things. So I just want to lean into those realities, the challenge of time away, the challenge of the expense, both financially and again, your time. So I want to lean to that. I want to affirm it. And then I would just share testimony, my own, and then the testimony I hear of many, many other youth workers who are in the exact same situation, even including those who have ended up coming to YLT after their leadership at first was hesitant or even didn't allow it. I would just begin to share, hey, look, I totally get all that, but let me just share with you a little bit about my story and how I ended up at YLT. And I've recently been sharing this with folks, but, I began attending YLT as a youth pastor in 2009. It was the year 2 of it, right outside of Memphis. At that time, I had over 8 years of youth ministry experience. I had 3 small children. I guess my oldest at that point was 7 or 8, and then 2 younger than that, so 8, 6, and 4 probably. I had a degree from seminary, was ordained. On paper, things may have looked like everything should be rolling along. I was, quote unquote, living the ministry dream. But what I was feeling and experiencing was serving in my second church at that time, learned a lot of lessons from what I wasn't doing well from my first church. That's for sure. What grew very apparent to me is that I was feeling more and more overwhelmed with the call to reach and care for the next generation. I loved my wife, I loved my family, I loved the church, and I loved the students and families I was seeking to serve. But it was getting exhausting. It was getting harder and harder. The tasks seemed to grow bigger than me. And I heard about, I had been attending YLT as a youth pastor, let me rephrase that. I had been attending summer conferences as a youth pastor starting in the summer of 2000, taking groups down and just incredibly being blessed by that and sort of building a little bit of rapport with other youth workers I'd see there. And when I heard that RYM had launched this youth leader training thing, I was thinking, I need to go to that. I was living in St. Louis at the time, so Memphis is about 5 hours down the road. And I went literally I put it up on this pedestal. I'm going to go and I'm going to find the answers I'm looking for. I'm going to go get trained, and come back and have it all figured out. And I went to YLT hoping to find it, find what I was missing. And I ended up being blessed beyond what I even knew to ask for or look for. It was another week away. It was in the middle of winter. I went away. I made that effort to get away. And YLT affirmed not only the incredible significance of youth ministry, like that's one thing that you pick up at YLT, is that no one is looking out at the people who come saying, what you're doing is small or just another thing in the church. Like we are a community of people who are going to affirm that what you're doing matters. It is huge. The task you're seeking to accomplish, again, whether you're a volunteer, part-time, been in ministry for 20 years or 2 months, single, married, male, female, whatever, you're doing something that is overwhelming. So affirming that sense of call, like, okay, what I'm doing matters, even though I don't have all the answers, even though I'm struggling. I was equipped with deep biblical categories and paradigms for ministry that experience and seminary had not yet offered. I knew a lot of things and learned a lot of things over the years, but I still was kind of winging it to a certain degree, kind of doing what I'd heard other people do, but never had I slowed down, stopped, and sat in a room with people and really begin to hear and understand and wrestle with these kind of deeper biblical theological patterns, paradigms, and categories. And all of a sudden, I began to have these tracks to run on. And then what became equally, if not more valuable to me over the years as I've attended YLT, it began in that very first year, but only grew over the years. I immediately found community. That connection piece was crucial for me. And just being received into that community and embraced by the other men and women serving in youth ministry around the country, it truly did become for me family. And I've told people that, for the next 6 years as a youth pastor, I attended, and it was the sabbatical that no youth pastor would ever get. I went and was able to get away and do some kind of real rich thinking and wrestling and study. I went away and the connection piece, literally, YLT is fun. I'll just say right now, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everybody goes out to dinner together at places of your choice. And like the evenings together, sharing a meal, laughing. There's a couple of groups in Nashville that go karaokeing on the last night. Just hilarious laughter, fun, just really connecting over good food and fun to get time together. It just was a lifeline for me, just refreshed me. And then again, every year, the preaching of the gospel was so encouraging. So that piece was huge. So when I jumped into my role as the director of training, after Joey and I talking about starting this new position with RYM to try to build training, the thing that won me over finally, because I just love the youth ministry, I love the local church, the thing that won me over was I might, by God's grace, be able to facilitate that same kind of experience for hundreds of other youth workers, that they might be received, equipped, and encouraged to go and serve in their churches, so that the church might make a lasting impact on the next generation. So that's my heartbeat, and we're figuring it out, making it better every year, learning as we go, learning from you, the youth workers. So why go? Why do I push back? I say that, yes, it's hard. Yes, it is time away. Yes, you have to kind of struggle a little bit to get everything in order while you're gone, but it's struggle a little bit beforehand to make that life-giving experience happen, or you find yourself struggling down the road, burnt out, alone, confused. Again, it's not a one-to-one comparison. There are people out there doing great youth ministry who don't come to YLT, but I do think the tendencies are there. So it became the investment, and not only for myself, but my wife, who as many of you guys may know, when you leave and your spouse has to take care of everything, whether it be your husband or your wife, that's a burden on them. It was one of those things that she saw that it became life-giving. I was a better father, better youth pastor, better person, having gone away and dug in. And again, I should say also, many folks are able to come with their spouses. And if that's possible for you, either finding childcare for your kids or you don't have kids yet, you guys are welcome to bring your spouses along and enjoy that time together. It's a true delight. So it's an investment of time and energy, no doubt. It is not something you can just go do. It is not vacation, but it is refreshing for your mind, for your soul, and for your call to ministry.
Yeah, that's very well said, Mike. I think to start off acknowledging, yeah, this is a sacrifice in a lot of ways. I mean, you're having to step away from the ministry. You're there's resources to get there, obviously, financially to get there. But it is so vital, and it's amazing the ways in which the Lord works through a week like that. I mean, I can remember Les Newsom, who is an RUF campus minister, and he's now a senior pastor. He said something that just made a lot of sense to me of just how vitally important it is to attend conferences like this. Because basically what he said in essence, when we're doing ministry, when we're in the midst of ministry, so much is going on, we're doing so much that we don't really have time to evaluate and think about what we're doing. So it takes, leaving, getting away for a week, getting outside of your ministry context to be able to kind of look back on it and to think, okay, why are we doing what we're doing? Kind of evaluating what we're doing. And so those weeks are vitally important to just step away and think about what it is you're doing, as well as receiving that encouragement. It is definitely life-giving for sure. So very well said, Michael. Anything you want to add as we close this out?
No, I think you said it. You said it best there, and it's just like you said. You have to take time to get a little exercise for your body. You can't just expect yourself to stay healthy that way. And like you said, if we aren't finding somewhere to get away, to be recharged spiritually, mentally, emotionally, in the context of community, it's a real it's potentially very, very challenging and works against your long-term sustainable and healthy ministry efforts. And also, Les Newsom will be in Nashville, so you get more of what John got if you come to the Nashville conference.
Nice, yes. All right, well, we'll close this one out, and then tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about just why YLT expanded a little bit and kind of give some of the background on that, and close out our conversation with Michael. Looking forward to it, man.
Thanks, John.